Good morning. I have been waiting to do the next video for a while because I've been struggling a lot. There's just been one assault after another on my heart, on my mind, on my emotions. And then I keep seeing this and it just really bothers me. And so I've been feeling self-conscious and I just want to stay real. I also look back at these and I listen to them over and over again because what I share is counsel to me as well. I write it down, I think about it, I go back and I can write some more. And when I post it, it then becomes like a minister to my spirit as well. And I hate that sometimes I forget what God has revealed to me because I just get overwhelmed with other things. So this one's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, because I had a lot that just kept happening. But as I was going through all of this, I kept thinking about Joseph. And I kept thinking about what he would do and how he had to go through the same things. So what I bring and what I share, I also do myself. And I expect if I'm sharing it, then I'm also doing it. So I've been struggling a lot with anger, bitterness, unfair, wanting to give up, hopelessness, all those things. And I know that Joseph went through the same thing. And it's hard trying to find God in your situations, but I'm like, that's exactly why I started this whole thing anyway, is because where is God when there's pain? Where is God when your life is hard? Where is he? Well, he's right there, but he looks different in different situations. Okay, so really it's amazing how there's all these chapters and all this time goes by for Joseph after he's been enslaved and taken into captivity and thrown in prison. There's just all this time. And then all of a sudden God moves and poof, there's half a chapter about the radical transformation of his life, and years go by. And it's just amazing when God says something, it just happens so fast. And then there's the learning period that has to happen after that. And so Joseph has been placed in a position of power with Pharaoh because his character has made it so. He learned during his trials and his suffering what kind of person he wanted to be. And then he lived that. And so when he got to an opportunity to be used in great ways, he was ready because it wasn't about him. It was about the greater good. So this is what I have. This is when it starts, Genesis 42. Okay. And this is after the 7 years of plenty. And then there's been, I think, 2 years of the famine. And nobody but Joseph and Pharaoh and the people in his court know that it's going to be 5 more years. They just know that things are sucking right now for them. Okay, so this is what I get. Joseph was living his life, doing his thing when his brothers showed up. The brothers would have never thought he, Joseph, could be in a position of power. We struggle for people to move past the place we have them in our memories. Joseph recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. He disguised himself. He treated them harshly, accused them of things to see how they would respond to the testing of their character, of who they are. We don't have to allow people back in our life if they haven't changed. Forgive and forget. I don't agree. You can move past it. You can forgive, but that doesn't mean that we have to walk right back into the same situation that God brought us out of. But we can evaluate whether it's safe and healthy to go back into that. And so I believe that's what he does here. He places one of his brothers in prison, like he was in prison, places them in the same situation he was in, but he has compassion on them. He then watches who they are when they speak their language. Sorry, I'm just trying to move this there. He then watches who they are when they speak their language and think no one can understand. So he's getting to look into their soul when they get to just be raw and real. They're feeling constant guilt over their brother's fate, Joseph's fate, all those years ago. They feel everything is a punishment for what they did. They've been racked with guilt. They thought they'd be able to move on from their sin and life would be great, better than before. But their sin, their guilt, was carried with them, plagued them, haunted them. Reuben is still reminding them that they are to blame. A leader doesn't continue to go back and remind you of your mistakes. And I believe this is another reason why Reuben is not the one that, it's not the lion of Reuben. Jesus didn't come from Reuben's line or lineage. Okay, because he couldn't move past it. He just continued to remind them of their faults, and that's not what a good leader does. Joseph was able to see how much this bothered them. He was able to hold off and see what would happen after a while because he had learned to wait and not to move according to his emotions. If it were me, I would have been like, okay, pumpkins, you poor things, even though you hurt me really bad, here you go. Well, some people can make short-term changes, but that's not overall. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to inflict some of this and see what happens. And then we'll see what their character is when push comes to shove. So yeah, you can say you're sorry. You can do something for a couple of days, but who are you in a couple of days when things haven't changed or when life goes back to normal? Okay. Joseph gave them back their money, but instead of being grateful, the brothers were terrified and racked with more guilt. They couldn't escape what they did. They were held captive by it. While they would enslave their brother, they were the ones who were truly enslaved. Joseph did not allow his chains to hold him. He may have been in chains, but his heart worshiped God. So this is something that I've been struggling with, is the people who hurt my daughter. How can they be free when we're living in pain? How can they walk around? But the Bible reminds me that I am free when I live and worship God because I have his promises and his blessings. And when you go against God and you hurt God's people, you're going to hold on to that, and God will move in your behalf. Okay? So he may have been in chains, but his heart worshiped God. He served God and did not let his situation hold him captive. Sometimes I let my situation hold me captive, and I have to break free of my chains because I am no longer a slave to sin, and I have to trust that my daddy has my back. Tamar, the woman with the issue of blood, Joseph, they all felt ignored, insignificant, but God showed up. God showed he knew exactly where they were and did what they needed. God cares about every single one of us. Every single one of us is significant to him. He hears our cries. He hears our pleas. So now we're going to look at Jacob. You know how God says, I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Amazing. He doesn't hold him and go, oh, Jacob, what are you doing? You're so dumb. Why are you doing that? He allows him to be Jacob and have his faults and his flaws, and he still moves and loves him. So when they come back, the brothers come back, and they said, we won't be able to see his face again unless we bring Benjamin. Jacob's like, all right, that's enough. I've already lost enough. You're not moving one more step. And I so understand this, because when you start losing everything precious, you just want to hold on to the things you can. And God is like, what are you doing, pumpkin? No. Let go. But Jacob is like a 3-year-old, or like myself. You know, when they get a toy that they don't want to give up, they hold on with everything they have. So Jacob refuses to let Benjamin out of his sight. He's afraid of losing him too. Their blessings would have come so much quicker had he let go. They would have had their miracles, but Jacob couldn't let go of his need to keep people safe, especially those he held dear. There were certain people that he wasn't willing to let go of. God wants everything of us, every single part of us. He says, you need to give that to me so that I can bless you even more. And when we hold things back, we hold back his blessings. And honestly, this can look so differently. It can look so different at different times. And so are you holding back your dreams, your hopes, your fears, your children? What exactly are you holding back? And then you have to look at why. What are you afraid of? I'll tell you, I'm afraid for my daughter. I'm afraid of what will happen. I don't have control, but I want to. So I don't exactly know what I'm fighting and what I'm trying to do, but I know that I'm struggling to just let it go and let him take over. So their salvation, the absolute miracles and blessings were there, but they had to let go. Especially Jacob had to let go and allow God to move in the situation. Jacob kept back his ultimate blessings because he was afraid of losing more. All he could focus on was what he'd lost already and how much that hurt. His life stopped and the pain continued when he thought Joseph was killed. Life had continued and Joseph was moving into a place, a position of power, but Jacob could only see what had happened to him and the loss he felt. Without being able to move on, he held all of them captive and hostage to their past. How much does that speak to you? Because it speaks to me every time I read it. I wrote those words, but I'm talking to myself. I don't know how to move past. I don't know how to get over what happened. I don't know how to look past the people that deny that this happened, or the people that lie or deceive to make it look like nothing really happened. I don't know how to let that go, but I know what my God says is true. And I know when I think of the goodness of Jesus and all he has done for me, I know he'll do it again and again and again. So what are we holding on to and what are we afraid to let go of? Why? Once you say it out loud and you actually say it to Jesus, he can finally move and help you let go. Because those little kids, when they're holding on to something precious, they're holding on with everything they have. And you have to pry their hands open. And then you see their chubby little hands. And they could see that precious little memento, that treasure, now you can protect it too. God's not going to pry open our hands, so we have to open it ourselves. And sometimes it kind of hurts when you've been holding on for so long. But that doesn't take away the idea that opening up your hand is good. The pain and letting go, it's worth it. Because then you don't have to hold back the blessings anymore.